Welcome to the downtown studios of Cranford, New Jersey, down here at the Commissioner's Cove. Alongside of me is my man, Mayus Boku, 13th Legion, and I am the Commissioner, Ricky Let Me Down, where we come together and try to put segments together to help you guys out in your off season for your fantasy insights, so you guys don't have to do your research. You could just chill out, sit back, relax,
Drink hot chocolate.
drink your cafecito, smoke your little cigar, drink your little bourbon or your whiskey while you're listening to two distinguished gentlemen talk about fantasy football, which we enjoy to do.
Yes, we do.
My man, it's been a long off season. You know, we're back on the mics.
Yeah. It seems very strange.
It sure does. You know,
I gotta get used to your, setup here. At the Cove.
Yes. Welcome down to the Cove on a Saturday. Really do appreciate your time. It feels good to be back. It feels good to be talking about fantasy football. If you look behind me, the draft combine is on. Everyone should be scouting the rookies coming up for the NFL draft coming up in soon in
End of April.
End of April. Okay, and it determine where you're going to take your picks in this year's draft. I know the juices are flowing for myself. I know the juices are flowing for yourself. It's a great time of year. It's for the next group of greatness for the young guys, and if you're a dynasty owner, it's your next group for your future. All right, are they going to take Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders? Here the quarterbacks on behind me. You could see throwing. Is Dart going to be one of your quarterbacks you're going to draft in your dynasty drafts, or possibly in your redraft? All right. However,
today we're not doing rookies.
No. However, today's segment is going to be on who I feel I'm not going to draft in 2025. All right, unless he really, really falls in my lap, okay, which I doubt. I'm not going to look to draft this individual. All right.
Yeah, this is more of our personal opinion.
Correct.
Based on our own biases, which, listen, I know a lot of people out there are going to feel different than we do.
Right.
But we've been burned in certain instances with some of these guys. And I would rather let you guys reach for them than me reach for them.
Right.
And I think that's what the basis of the show is going to be today, right?
It sure is.
Yeah.
All right, let's get down to it. I picked my 5 guys, and I know you have your 5 guys. I kind of looked at your list there. I don't think you and I have the same individuals.
No, we do not.
No, all right, so let's get down to the program. All right. Number one, who do you have number one on your list who you are not going to draft in the 2025 NFL Redraft League?
Okay, now, again, we said, if one of these guys happens to fall to you at a great ADP landing spot,
of course, you got to take
you might have to take him, right? But I'm not going to reach out, and my first guy on the list is we all bought into the hype last year. He was going to be the next coming of Travis Kelce, and we talked about the quarterback that was going to throw him the ball, and he was going to be highlighted because another tight end of the team wasn't going to necessarily be there, or he's going to be relegated to a lesser role. But that's my man Dalton Kincaid. Ooh. So tight ends, this is a very tough one because I'm sure Dalton Kincaid will be ranked somewhere between 8th and probably 14th overall tight end wise. But you guys can take him. Yeah. I got burned by him, and that I'm not saying this because it's recency bias, but I think that there's going to be other tight ends out there that are going to be more formidable for me to have on my team and more consistent. I just take a look at what happened last year. Dawson Knox was still there. I believe he's still going to be there this year. They're talking about drafting another wide receiver anyway, and they already have Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir, and they have 2 guys running the ball. I just don't. I don't think it leaves enough room for Dalton Kincaid to give you the volume is king in fantasy.
Yeah, volume
Dalton Kincaid showed this past year that that volume's not going to be for him. So my first guy on the list is Dalton Kincaid. Draft him at your own peril.
That's a good one. All right, that's a good pick. I agree with you. I'm not picking Dalton Kincaid, unless you have just no one else and you hope to get 2 or 3 points. My number one guy on the list for me personally, only me, is Zay Flowers. I got Zay Flowers. I looked at his stats. I looked at a lot of people's stats, and the reason why I'm taking Zay Flowers, he's very frustrating for me. Very, very frustrating. He has all the tools. He has everything. He has all the attributes to be a number one receiver, which he would be on a different team with a different quarterback. However, with this team, with his system, you know, he's very inconsistent in my eyes, for me, as a number one wide receiver. You know, I'm looking for, obviously, everyone's looking for Jamar Chase numbers. Everyone is. He's a number one receiver, you know, all these guys. But if you're going to be number one with the Baltimore Ravens, you gotta be, the volume isn't there for me. He may get targets. Like, let's look at his stats from last year. You know, week 1, 8 targets. I'm going to go through the targets week 1 through, let's just say 18. 8, 10, 4, 2, 11, 9, 1, 12, 6, 6, 6, 8, 7, 7, 8, 5, 2.
Well,
now
listen.
you're saying, hold on, you're saying is from week 8 to week 16, six targets. We're talking about a number one here. That's what I'm saying, a number one.
Well, I mean, I think that's what I'm not telling you that you're wrong for how you feel about Zay Flowers. I'm just trying to tell you that, you know, for his team, he should be the number one. I don't think anyone's going to make an argument that Rashad Bateman is their number one. So in that aspect, just team construction wise, he probably is their number one, and that's not what you're looking at for number one.
Not for fantasy. No, you could be the number one receiver on that team. Yes, you're the leader, 100%. But when I'm looking at yardage here, okay, if you're looking at week number 10, 34, 39, 62, 74, 53. Then you have a 100-yard game against Pittsburgh week 16, then 31, then 12.
Well, his profile, if you take a look at what he's got a low ADOT, so he's real close to the line of scrimmage all the time. He's not going to blow the top off the defense. He's not your typical number one. And therefore, the way I look at him is he's not. I don't know if that team has a number one wide receiver. But I understand what your premise is and the reason why you have your opinion. I just think that if you're looking at Zay Flowers on your fantasy team to be your third wide receiver, I think that he fits that mold. But understanding what you're trying to say, to be a number one on his team, it's not number one.
He's not a number one. I'm not taking him. All right, that's my number one. Who do you have in number 2?
This is going to be a little controversial. He just came off a wrist injury, surgery actually. He had a down year last year compared to the previous year.
You're definitely not taking this guy.
I'm not. Listen, I know that there's probably drafts out there in the summertime that he's going to be either going late first and into the second, but I'm going to let you take him. I'm not going to reach for him. I'm not going to trust it. I think that the Dolphins are not in the same spot they were a couple years ago. And there's a lot of questions that need answered, and I'm not willing to take a chance on my fantasy season by picking a pick so high, and therefore I will not be drafting Tyreek Hill.
You have been a Tyreek owner for a lot of years. I mean, that guy's he's done very well for your team for many years, and now you're just going to throw him to the sidelines, huh? I'm
not throwing him to the sidelines. I'm just going to choose someone else. Someone else is going to be taking him.
Yeah.
Believe me, I know that.
There's going to be a lot of young wide receivers coming out. You know, it's a changing of the guard. It really is.
It is. And there was a lot of confusion about whether or not he would play again in Miami this year. Maybe they've worked everything out. I just think that that team has some question marks, and the health of Tua is obviously another reason why I might not take a chance. I mean, you're starting your preseason, you're starting your season off with a lot of hope because no one's injured, right? So everything looks good. But I take into account the possibility of Tua hurting Tyreek that's exactly what happened last year. So.
Well,
Kamish, you can draft him. He's off my team this year.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. And if Tua goes down, you can forget about it. And they haven't even signed a backup quarterback. So I totally understand why you're not touching Tyreek Hill. It's just so enticing when you see his name out there. But I just don't think he's worth the number one draft capital that you've been. We've said that last year, though. We said that he was going to drop out of the first round. We did a segment that we said Tyreek Hill was going to drop out of the first round. Remember that?
Yes, I said that. You know, there was a 50% turnover from one year to the next. What was first round as opposed to losing that first round draft capital. Yep. I just think he falls further this year. I could see him possibly
third round. Maybe.
You know what? It depends on what the rookies come out and what their draft capital is, but you might make a case for early third round or late second.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which, if you think about it, blows your mind for Tyreek Hill.
But what are you going to do? I mean, someone's going to take him. Listen, if he drops in the fourth round, I mean, You gotta,
it's
you
a
got to
steal.
take him. It's a
Right.
steal. It's a steal. All right, good pick for yourself. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna not piggy bank, but I'm gonna say my next guy, number 2, is Kenneth Walker III. Kenneth Walker, I'm not drafting this year. Listen, there's a lot of running backs coming out the draft this year. I know Kenneth Walker is a starter. However, I'm not saying there's a changing of the guard in with the Seahawks. However, they like Charbonnet.
Yes, they do.
like
You're
Charbonnet.
right.
So what that leads me to believe is they're gonna split. Okay, and if I'm looking to draft this guy in the top 2, 3 rounds, first round, second round, I'm not doing it. I'm gonna drop down and maybe take a number 1 wide receiver and take a tier 2 running back, because technically, if you look at his numbers from last year, besides him always getting injured because of his running style, okay, if you look at his numbers, all right, 20 attempts. I'm gonna go with the attempts from week 1 through 9, and then he missed 10. And then 11, 12, 13, and missed week 14, 15, came back week 16. So he's missing time every year. That frustrates people, especially he's missing time when you need him the most.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
When you need him the most.
Making your playoff push.
That's
in fantasy,
correct.
Yeah.
And then now you're scrounging around and you're trying to trade for a running back. Now you're trading your picks. He's hurting you. He's hurting your draft capital and he's hurting your team.
Well, he's hurting your trade possibilities too, because no one wants to trade for an injured player.
There you go. So I'm looking at the attempts here. First week, 20, 12, 5, 14, 14, 9, 25. 25 week 9 is what we all look for. The volume, right? The number one running back. You're getting the volume. That's what you want. That's what you draft first round, possibly second round. 25, 20, 19, 19. Hold on. Then after week 9, he misses week 10 with an injury. Week 11, 14, 16, 16, and then 8.
Yeah.
That's what that means to me. You're splitting.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You're splitting, and I'm not drafting him.
Well,
unless he falls 5th, 4th, which he won't.
Well, listen, let me just go back to what you said. He's definitely not a first or second round, pick in redraft.
I'm not taking him.
But I mean, you just told me exactly where he really is going, and that's probably 4th, 5th rounds in normal drafts. But even at that rate, I think this year you're going to see a lot more running backs out there that are going to be more attractive and less injury prone than he does.
Yes.
Than he would be.
Like the 20-year-olds coming out in the draft. That's
Right.
what I'm saying to you.
And I'm not saying he's old, and you would still, I wouldn't mind having him on my team, but I can't trust him to be carrying me like we had, people who had Saquon last year. That's what, I know that's the prime, right? You want someone who's going to be out there 18 to 22, 23 snaps, how it carries, right?
That's correct.
Getting 8, 9 carries isn't going to do it for you.
No. All right.
I can totally understand why you have him on your list.
I got him on my list. That's my number 2. Who do you have at number 3?
Okay, so here's a guy who he's on a team. He might not be on the team this year. I don't know. Wow. By the end of the free agency, we'll see if there's a trade for him. He's got a quarterback situation that's in flux. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be. He is their number 1 wide receiver, and he has a ton of potential.
Yes,
that every year that you're always waiting for it to manifest itself, and it's just something.
But
falls
he has
short.
it. He has it.
He
really does.
Right, but he just hasn't put it all together.
It's in between the years.
It may be the quarterback situation also. It could be that, because they don't have a true number 2, the attention is placed on him.
Who's this guy? Who's this
mystery?
But it's
George Pickens.
George Pickens.
So
there
George
he is.
Pickens. So, there was a couple years ago that I did pick him I believe as a rookie.
Of course.
I picked him.
Yeah.
And I know other players, other team owners have taken a chance, hoping this would be the year that he would put it all together.
Yeah.
And I'm not waiting. I'm not going to be one of those guys who picks up like a Kyle Pitts type of thing. Maybe that's the guy we should have put on the list too. I didn't put him on mine.
Everyone knows don't draft Kyle Pitts, but you never know with the new quarterback.
And the situation with Pickens is like, do you wait? Do you take a chance? Now, is he going to be drafted in the top 5 rounds? Probably not. But you want to know something? Even if it's 8th and 9th round available,
I'm not taking him.
You take him. I'm not.
Thank you.
And I just listed the reasons why.
Absolutely, totally understand it. Totally understand. All right, my number 3.
Got 3.
Oh, this is a little controversial.
Well, see, I had picked controversy. Now it's your turn.
All right, number 3, I have Garrett Wilson.
Oh,
I have Garrett Wilson. All right. There's a couple of reasons why.
You're talking about a guy
I know
that in some drafts last year went in the end of the first round.
Yes, he was a number 1. He was a first round. And he has first round potential. But we talk about it, the volume isn't there. Okay, he's not there. He's gonna have a new quarterback. Okay, they're talking about Tyrod Taylor being the starter. Okay, you know they're probably gonna draft a quarterback in the second, third round. You know that he's probably not gonna. Even if he does start, is he gonna force feed this guy the ball? They're gonna have a new coach. Breece Hall is gonna get the ball. They're probably gonna draft another wide receiver. Devontae Adams is out, so you figure Devontae Adams is out. Garrett Wilson is going to be the number one again. It's just the volume isn't going to be there. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say all I'm saying. Just like I'm going to use your words. I'm going to let someone else deal with that headache, okay? Because with Aaron Rodgers last year, all right, week 1, 11 targets, week 5. So these are the targets from week 1 through 18. He played every game, which is fantastic. These are the targets last year. 11, 6, 9, 8, 21. That's what you like, obviously.
Yeah,
I know.
That's on the upper end.
I understand that. 21, 10, 9, 8, 10, 6, 8, 11, 10, 10, 6, 7, 8, and 5. However, if you look at the yardage, okay, even with 11 targets, 60 yards receiving. This is Garrett Wilson, a number one receiver getting 11 targets. 60 yards.
How many 100-yard games did
he had? 4 100-yard games from week 9 through 13. Okay, 90, 41, 18 yards with 8 targets.
Yeah.
4 reception, 18 yards. 41, 114, okay, against Miami. And then you had the Jacksonville Jaguars, who weren't that good, 56 yards on 6 targets, 3 receptions. 54, 66, 51. He ended the year horribly. This is a number one guy.
And the end of the year was when most teams are looking at that's your playoff push. And this is going to be most teams had this guy as their wide receiver
of
one.
Course it did.
And that left a bad taste in their mouth.
That's right. So now I'm not drafting this guy this year because next year is a lot of uncertainties. You know, you and I watch Mike and the Bad Dog growing up, right? Is that fair?
Yeah.
We watched Mike and the Bad. We've listened until they went onto the Yes Network. And, you know, these guys would always talk about question marks, you know. And when I sat there and I listened when we were younger, we always used to call each other and talk about the radio, you know, the talk show hosts. And I never understood. They said a team would always come in a lot of question marks. So I understand now. I understand what they were saying. You know, this team is a lot of question marks. So you would say, let's say you fall in love with the Giants or the Yankees or baseball or the Mets. They say, well, there's a lot of question marks. And I would always think to myself, what do you mean question marks? We were younger at the time. We didn't understand that. What do you mean question marks? They're going to do good. Well, I understand now. Too many question marks with this team. Garrett Wilson, you don't need question marks when you need certainty. You know, a stud. Let's say he had a Trevor Lawrence. Different story.
Oh, yeah.
Different story.
Obviously, a consistent and pretty good quarterback is going to help you. Rising tide raises all boats. But, in this situation, you're absolutely right. The Jets are in flux. They don't have a franchise quarterback. You're going to get a traditional and historical backup to be your quarterback starting the year, probably. No. Because I don't think again, we could be wrong. Free agency's around the corner. I mean, maybe they do something there. But the talk right now is not doing that. So, I could see Garrett Wilson not being your headache and let them be someone else's headache. Yeah. Yes.
Well, people, I'm just going to interrupt this program. Isaiah Bond just ran a 4.41. He stated he was going to break the combine 40-yard dash, and he just did not. So, let's go.
Was that his first run?
That's his first run. 4.41.
We'll see.
Okay. You could draft him. All right, let's move on to your number, what is it, number 4?
Number 4 for me, another controversial guy. I mean,
I don't know about this one, but go ahead.
I'm going to explain why.
Okay.
And again, listen, it's a running back. So the running back dearth of good running backs is well explained. There aren't too many, right? So this guy is a top 7, 8 running back probably in the draft.
All right, that's
maybe
you
would say that. Definitely top 10, maybe.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I just I'm going to say the name is Chase Brown, the Bengals. All right?
And you had him too.
I did have him in Dynasty, and it was a trade casualty that I had at some point during the year. This is my thinking, right? Mm-hmm. You could draft him, and you could put up with the fact
he's a little frustrating because
you could put up with the fact that everything went perfectly for him to have the season that he had this year.
Yeah,
you had a Bengal team that had a bad defense. They were always playing from behind. They had to use the short jump off, and it was Jamar Chase's show most of the time. But everything underneath was Chase Brown. You had a team playing 2-3 guys on Chase. I mean on Jamar.
he
So
still couldn't get
therefore,
out.
the holes were there for Chase Brown. I just think it was one of those situations where it was a perfect season for Chase Brown to
It was.
explode on the scene.
It was.
The reason
was.
why I don't want to draft him is because duplication of that is going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
And most people are going to draft him to be their RB1, especially
Yeah.
if you're in 0 RB or hero RB, and I think you're going to be disappointed. I could be totally wrong. We're obviously going to go through this next year.
So let me ask you. So it's basically what I just talked about with Zay Flowers. They're going to draft their Zay Flowers and they expect their Chase Brown to be their number 1 later on in the draft. Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Plus, the other thing too is that there has been talk about the Bengals actually drafting a running back in the draft, and that is just it's not going to be good for Chase. He might go. Don't forget they began the season with Zach Moss as their number
yeah.
1. So even Chase Brown couldn't even beat Zach Moss out.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
Yep.
and also the fact that they were going with the mentality of having a 1A, 1B type of situation
Yep.
with running back. So
Yep.
I just don't think Chase Brown is going to be the number 1 guy to have the similar season that he had last year. So again, you draft him, I'll take someone else.
All right, good call.
Not to say that I wouldn't take him if he fell to me. At the
Understandably
right
so. If he fell to a great position, yeah,
Right.
5, 6, 7 round, whatever it may be. You know, if he falls in your lap, you're gonna have to take him. But you're talking about to be your mainstay of your staple of your team. You're not drafting him to be your RB number 1.
If I had to, he would definitely not be my RB number 1.
Right.
But even as an RB2 on my team, I would be nervous every
Right,
week.
you'll be nervous.
Yeah.
Totally understandable.
So
Okay, that's fair. All right. My number 4. My number 4 is Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco will not see my team this year. If he falls to me, he slaps me in the face, and I'm staring at the board, and I see Isaiah Pacheco, and I see a Chase Brown. I'm taking the Chase Brown over Isaiah Pacheco.
Okay,
I really
all right,
am.
fair enough.
Obviously, because let me tell you something. He came back this year. I know coming off an injury, he had a horrible injury. You know, a lot of people drafted him this year to be your RB number 2 or so. You know,
on your team, yeah.
right? 1, 2, whatever it may be. And the injury, you can't predict injuries, so you lost him for the year, but you did expect him to come back at the end of the year. If you're going to come back and play, you play. You know, Pacheco, you just went to the Super Bowl the year prior and you did very well. And then you're just not going to play him, Kareem Hunt. You're just going to play over him. You can't beat Kareem Hunt out again. I don't know if it was game scripted. I don't know if it was because his knee wasn't up to par or his leg wasn't up to par. But at the same token, you know what? You're going to carry that over to 2025. I want no part of it. 0. Nothing. I am not taking that chance because 1 hit away. No, I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
I'm not drafting him.
I could understand a Pacheco as your RB2 on your team.
Yeah, he
just
was.
and I just thought that they shouldn't have rushed him back at the end of last year.
Yeah.
I can understand the reason why, but I'm going to tell you the same thing I just said about the Chase Brown situation. There are rumors that KC is going to draft a running back in the draft this year.
They always do. They always draft a running back. And what round was Isaiah Pacheco? He was later, right? He was late round.
Right, and they'll probably do the same thing.
Right.
Who knows? Maybe they'll take the Manat guy from Rutgers. Pacheco went to Rutgers too.
Well, don't forget, you got Carson Steele there. They drafted him last year. He's 22 years old. Who knows? I'm just saying. Who knows?
Again, if he was going to be anything, I think he would have shown his worth during the season, especially since they were in dire straits for a running back, and it just never panned out. I just also think that Pacheco's running style is so violent that he's going to be, as the years goes on, he's going to be more prone to injury. So he's more of a complimentary guy, in my opinion.
Can you believe that? The guy was being drafted as your RB1 or RB2, and now he's a complimentary running back. Think about that. From 1 injury.
Yes.
I know.
Do we remember Devontae Freeman from Atlanta a few years ago?
I do remember Devontae Freeman.
The league is full of players that, that were there for 1 year and 2 years maybe, and then just fell off the cliff.
Did I mention him yet? I think I did.
Who?
This one right here. We'll talk about that.
You didn't.
Okay, we'll talk about him.
My turn for
Your
my
turn.
last guy, and that'll be your last guy.
Right.
Okay.
You and I both have a complimentary last guy. So we really have 6. We got 5 each, but we agreed upon that 6th person.
My complimentary 6th guy is your
mine.
guy.
Right. So we're going to talk
So
about
we'll
him.
talk about
All right,
him
we'll
at the
talk.
end. So my last guy on the list
Who is
is
it?
another controversial pick, but I think a lot of people got burned by him this year. He went in the 2024 redraft. He went as your RB1, maybe the first guy off the board, and that
He
was
sure
Christian
did.
McCaffrey.
Yeah. You're not drafting Christian McCaffrey
I
at
am
all.
not drafting. I am not. I mean, if he falls to me in some ungodly round like round 5, I'm like, take. You know, he's not dropping
That's
that far.
crazy.
But I have been. This is one of those guys where I've had on my team, and he's been hurt for me. I was never one of those lucky guys to have him when he was completely healthy.
I had him as well. I had him when he was younger, yeah.
But at the same time, with those injuries, I think in another year older, I just think that I'm not willing to go through the headache of having to have him on my IR, wait for him to come back.
Yeah.
And last year I told you, we sat here and did one of the, which 12 of these first round picks are not going to be in the first round, and I said McCaffrey. And I'm not going to put my trust in him being healthy for a full season.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. I have
I
nothing
don't
to
think
say.
I have to say anything else other than that.
I have nothing to say. I totally agree with you. I mean, it's crazy that you're going to be drafting McCaffrey in the first. You see him in the first round, but you just can't trust him right now. You just can't do it.
Listen, I would rather take a healthy Brian Thomas Jr. over Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. All right, my
You
last
got to
guy.
go with your last guy, and then we'll
All
talk
right,
about the.
my last guy. I said this last year. He's a 2-time defending champ in my brain. This guy right here. And I've said it because I drafted him 2 years ago, and I said I will not touch him last year, and I wouldn't. And remember, I did not touch him last year. And
No.
I feel the same way this year.
You know what? You were right.
I was right. I was 100% correct when I said.
And this is exactly what the point of this show is. Let him be your headache. You
Right.
draft him, and so he was someone else's headache
That's
last
100.
year.
And I said it. I said this guy I'm not drafting, and I didn't draft him, and he was a headache, and he's going to be a headache again. And that person is Travis Etienne.
Yeah.
Listen, there is no explanation for Travis Etienne. If you play fantasy football, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you are a Travis Etienne owner, for some reason, he splits carries with Tank Bigsby. He has catch passing ability that they don't utilize. Trevor Lawrence is running around. He's throwing the ball. Right now, with the emergence of Brian Thomas Jr., they possibly get another wide receiver. Their tight end. They have a rookie. I think a young and up and coming tight end, and they still have Ingram in there. I believe they're going to a pass heavy, but we'll see how the new coach comes in and changes things around. We don't know. Maybe he likes Bigsby better than ATM. All I'm saying is I'm not drafting Travis Etienne.
Well,
at all.
That is Liam Cohen from Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay ran their offense, and they had Rashad White and they had Bucky Irving. So you have two guys on the team right now who could fit those roles. However, they're not guys he drafted.
That's right.
So there's always a possibility they go a different round in the draft. So at this point right now, you're absolutely right about Travis Etienne, even there's a glimmer of hope with the new coach.
Oh, no.
But I don't believe that a leopard changes his spots that much like that. So I don't want anything to do with
It's the
him.
same glimmer of hope that Kyle Pitts has with Penix as a quarterback.
Or a new head coach. Right.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. We both agreed upon, even though that was 5 and 5, that's my 5, your 5. We agreed upon a number 6, and we didn't know.
No, I came down here today. We compared notes.
That's right.
And we said, hey, this is the same guy for both of us.
So, do you want to do the honors of telling the family who that person would be, who I'm not drafting and you're not drafting, and he has so much potential in that offense?
All right, so there was another guy last year who was surrounded by a lot of hype. With the team being a past team, they were going to get a running back. They had just got a running back from free agency. They drafted another one. They had a stable of horses, but the year before his rookie year, he was so promising.
Yeah, man, he really was. He really was.
Everything being said is Jaden Reed from the Packers.
That's right.
We thought Jordan Love was going to pass the ball more often than he did this past year. Jaden Reed was drafted by a lot of guys. He was the hot guy of the year. One of the hot guys of the year last year, and they were talking about him being your wide receiver 1 in your team or a high end wide receiver 2. And I just don't know what happened. I think maybe is there a possibility that you have too many good wide receivers? You spread the ball around too much? But I go back to what you said. Your number 1 is your number 1. He's going to get the ball no matter what. Jamar Chase is the number 1. He gets the ball.
Yep.
You give me all your number 1s, including even though Jefferson had competition with Addison, it's still Jefferson was the focal point on the wide receivers. CD is the number one. You expected Jaden Reed to be that number one.
Of course you did. And he gave you a couple good weeks, and then you just waited and waited and waited and waited, and he just never came about.
And I'm not willing to wait a whole season for him
No.
again. And therefore, again, I'm going to tell you, you let him be your problem. You draft him. I'll pick someone else.
You can have him. You can have Jaden. Now, the only glimmer of hope, like you said, is that they're looking to pass to be more. Watson. Watson, I don't think plays in 2025 with his injury, so he is going to take over that one wide receiver one role again. However, you got the running back there, and
You got something else there too to worry about, and that's the
tight end.
Well,
they mentioned it.
They right. I think LaFleur did say that they realized that Tucker Kraft was something that they needed to get more involved. But more than that is the rumor coming out of there that they are looking to trade for a real wide receiver one. So if that's the case, that's all you need to hear about who do they really think or what they really think of Jaden Reed.
Do you remember what we talked about? Do you remember who I said not trade? They could get him for free. I said Keenan Allen's going to go over to the Green Bay Packers.
He's no longer a one, though. Commish, he's no longer a one.
I think he's going to go there.
I mean, even with Chicago, he wasn't their one. And I don't think that they need him there. I could see them making the trade for DK Metcalf.
Okay, that's fair. That's a good trade, depending. But
I mean, they have some wide receivers to give up if it came to a trade.
They do. They have some wide receivers, but are they
so right now we're looking at their wide receiver core of Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, and Belton. All right, those are the four. Christian Watson is out. He probably the earliest that I've seen him come back is the middle of the year. So he's not starting the season off on that team. They have some good young wide receivers they can include in the trade if they wanted to. DK Metcalf is still young. So I don't know. I could see a trade happening there if it does, but the fact that they would even say that or the rumors are out there for that, I think tells you a lot about what they think of what their current wide receiver staples are like. I think they know that they have a bunch of number twos, but not a number one.
Yeah, that's good. All right, my friend. I appreciate your list, man. That was entertaining. We'll see what happens with these guys coming out in the 2025 redraft league. Guys who have him in their dynasty league. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey, they're worried. All right, he's getting a little longer to two. Injury prone. I mean, when is it time to sell this guy? You're gonna have to make that determination. Whatever team owner, if you're a McCaffrey owner in your dynasty league in the redrafts, we talked about my 5, his 5. Our 6th guy, okay? I'm sure there's more out there. I'm sure if you guys have a guy who you're not drafting, put him in the comments. We'll be glad to
we'll talk about
to read about it, But that's ours, all right? Well, I appreciate you coming out tonight. Thank you very much. You guys be safe. It was good talking, getting the juices flowing for the 2025 fantasy football season. It's coming, The draft is coming.
So right now, all the ingredients are being thrown in the pot. We're making a nice big stew. It's going to be nice and tasty.
Yeah. Well,
we still got to do a show. We're going to do shows. We have shows lined up.
Yes, we do.
We have a lot of new coaches and coordinators in new places.
Yep.
And what does it mean to your team?
We'll see.
We'll find out.
All right, guys. You guys be safe. Like, subscribe, comment, whatever you want to do. You guys have a good one. Bye.
Bye.